Hey there, guys. Welcome back to the Daily Stoic. Today we're gonna do something different because I didn't get a chance. I'm gonna get better, but yesterday I did not get a chance to do March 2nd, so I'm gonna do March 2nd first for a little bit, probably take 8 minutes, and then I'll do March 3rd. So this might be a longer video, but I really want to talk about these because they're very cool. So let's get started, okay? So first one I wants to talk about, right? Is the first one that came up. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and read this, and I'm getting more techie with this. Okay, so we're reading this passage here. Above all is this. Okay, all right. Let's. Okay, March 2nd. Accurate self-assessment. Above all, it is necessary for a person to have a true self-estimate, for we commonly think we can do more than we really can. That's Seneca on Tranquility of Mind 5.2. So most of people resist the idea of a true self estimate, probably because they fear it might mean downgrading some of their beliefs about who they are and what they are capable of. As Goethe's Maximus goes, it is a great failing to see yourself as more than you are. How could you really be considered self-aware if you refuse to consider your weakness? Don't fear self-assessment because you're worried you might have to admit that some things about you, some sorry, let me read that again. Don't fear self-assessment because you're worried you might have to admit some things about yourself. The second half of Goetz Maximus is important too. He states that it is equally damaging to value yourself at less than your true worth. It is not equally common to be surprised at how well we're able to handle previously feared scenarios. The way that we are able to put aside the grief for a loved one and care for others, though we always thought would be wrecked if something were to happen to our parents or a sibling, the way we're able to rise to the occasion in a stressful situation or life-changing opportunity, we underestimate our capabilities just as much as a dangerously as just as much and just as dangerously as we overestimate our abilities. Cultivate the ability to judge yourself accurately and honestly. Look inward to discern what you're capable of and what it will take to unlock the potential. All right, I know I staggered through all that quite a bit. All right, but I see we often resist truly assessing ourselves because it forces us to admit weakness, or at least we feel like it forces us to admit weakness. But overestimating or underestimating yourself is equally harmful. Like not believing enough in yourself also is a detriment to you. So that's why it's important to get a true self awareness, to get to true self awareness, right? So true self awareness means judging our abilities accurately and knowing what it takes to unlock potential. Meaning, we need to do a real assessment, like really realize, are we good with people? Are we not good with people? Whatever you feel that where you need to be at, really assess if you're where you're really at. Like if you feel you're good with people, but people don't seem to think the same, there might be some, ball busting reality you gotta get to, right? See, one of the reasons I found that why people avoid that self-assessment is the fear of realizing they aren't as skilled or capable as they thought. Tell me you don't know this. We don't know people that they love feeling like they really know what they're talking about, but they don't really seem to talk about like know what they're talking about. See, in that instance, that person, because they believe they know more than what they actually do, or they they refuse to admit they don't know as much as they do, they'll never change. They'll continue spinning the same game over and over again, maybe increment a little bit over time, but basically they stay the same because they don't feel like they need to learn anything more. See, the ego gets in the way. People want to believe they are more than they are. See, and now with that, the other side is underestimating yourself. We often think that we can't handle certain challenges until we do. And then when we do, we're like, damn, can you believe we did that? You're always capable of doing that. It just took you believing you could. The like the book showed talked about one of the examples. We often think we can't handle certain things and challenges until we do. Handling grief, stepping up in an emergency, or pushing through adversity. You know, sorry, give me a second. Or us pushing through adversity, like, and I actually had this talk with my son the other day. We're talking about there was a point in time where I moved, on this one. I want to say I overestimated myself a wee tad bit, but I got it done. But was was it hard? It was harder than I thought it was going to be. So we move across the country with my kid, and we were talking about it because I told him, like, I feel like I forced you to grow up, and I was not apologizing, but kind of going over, like, hey man, like, maybe it wasn't the greatest decision that I made. And I've been having a lot of talks with this my 21-year old, and it made me feel good to realize that he told me he appreciated it. He felt that when we moved away and more responsibility was put on him, that he enjoyed that. He enjoyed stepping up. He enjoyed being given that authority, right? And that's what I want to say. In that aspect, I feel like I was underestimating him, and even to this day, I was underestimating what I did to him. I was looking at like I did a bad thing to him when it was really a good thing. So sometimes we really need to sit down and look at what we've done. Look at our history. I just got off a call with a good buddy from back in the day, and I was telling the same thing. Like, every story you're telling me shows me how you're great at something, right? You're really good at what those things that you're doing, and it's just you realizing that you're really good at it and value yourself to start growing that. So I guess just to wrap this one up quickly, because we have the other one, is like, I guess the balance is key here. Neither overestimate or undervalue yourself. You really have to be able to look internally and really know where you stand. Ask, what am I actually capable of? What skills do I need to develop? See, I always, this is why I like, and I'm starting to sound like a broken disc, but I always tell people, like, if you're really considered in the limbo, or you're like, I'm not good at anything, take a self-assessment test. Take a self-assessment test. They're eerily accurate. Take a self-assessment test. No matter how you feel, just answer it truthfully and honestly. And those reports typically make, not only do they help in the fact that they tell you, like, hey, you're kind of, this and this way, and it'll also go down the rabbit hole and say, like, but because of this and this is the best, like, situations and stuff for you. It gives you a lot of information that could help you also not only identify, because I do feel like we kind of know what we're good at. We're just not confident enough to state it and state our claim and be like, yes, I'm good enough at that. But I believe that it's I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but, like, I do believe that's very important, to be able to identify what we're capable of. And lastly, like, the daily challenge, the one thing I want to challenge you guys is find one area where you may be overestimating and underestimating yourself. Sit down and, if you talk a big game but you don't see really a lot of results, maybe it's like, okay, maybe I'm over talking myself a little bit, but what will it really take to get me to where I want to be? Or if you're the other way around, like, if you're underestimating yourself, what is it one thing that people tell you constantly, hey, you're good at that, or you feel good when you're doing it, or something you would do without anybody even having to pay you, you're just good at that? Really sit down and feel like, when, in what areas do you feel like you're underestimating yourself, you know? And make a really good self-awareness test. Um, uh, I really like. I love when I read that one, because it's really true, and it was funny because I just, as I was setting up to do this, once again, like, buddy calls me, and, like, it's the same speech I gave him. Like, look, you need to know what your true worth is, and you need to sit down and do, like, a self-assessment. What am I missing to take it to that state, that next step? What is it that I'm holding me back? It's scary. It's gonna suck going through it, but what is it that is holding me back? And same thing if you're underestimating yourself. Really do that self-assessment. So, all right, we're gonna end it there for the first day. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the second day, which is March 3rd, and it gonna look a little bit like this. That was yesterday's. Let's see this one. I better be careful with this, because this could be bad. Okay. Okay, March 3rd. let's zoom in a little bit, or maybe not. Things are getting blurry. Give me a second. Let me figure out why this one's being a little punk. Oh, that's why. All right, here we go. All right. So now we're on today's March 3rd. Disintegration. All right. These things don't go together. You must be a mindful human being, either good or bad. You must diligently work either on your own reasoning or on things out of your control. Take great care with the inside and not the outside, which is to say, stand with the philosopher or else with the mob. All right, that's Epictetus, Discourses 3:15-13. We're all complicated people. We have multiple sides to ourselves, conflicting wants, desires, and fears. The outside world is no less confusing and contradictory. If we're not careful, all these forces, pushing and pulling, will eventually tear us apart. We can't live as both Jekyll and Hyde. Not for long, anyways. When we have a choice to stand with the philosopher and focus strenuously on the inside, or to behave like a leader of a mob, becoming whatever the crowd needs at a given moment. If we do not focus on our internal integration, on self awareness, we risk external disintegration. Ooh, wow. Very, very powerful. And this is another thing, it's funny because, once again, I was just talking to a friend about this. All right, let me switch this over. All right, and that is. Let me get this. Sorry, guys, give me a second now. Bear with me here. We're trying to get it together. All right, guys, you ready? All right. See, with this passage, it's very interesting, but I guess the main idea is we all have conflicting desires, emotions, and fears. If we don't align internally, we become unstable, torn between different forces. We must choose to be guided by wisdom, the philosopher, rather than by external influences like the mob, the people. You know why we see, and it, it, I think that's very important. And I just talked to this with the friend, and we're on the phone, and it's one thing that I've been embracing wholeheartedly, and I somewhat embraced it my whole life, so that's why I feel like I've been I've had the success I had, but lately is just my mantra is like I can only control what I can control, and what I can control is my decisions and my reactions. That's the only two things I can control: my decisions, and when it comes to make a decision, whether it's aligning with what I want or aligning, not taking me away from what I want, and reactions when something happens. If something that we weren't expected, how I react to it. Do I ball up and say the world is over when something bad happens, or do I actually confront the issue or figure out a way to solve an issue? You know, and I just told this to my buddy because I believe it's so true and so impactful. Um, Give me a sec. Let me switch my scene so you guys can see me. Not that you really want to, but let's just do this. But what I was telling him is that, like, you can only control what you can control, and if you direct your energy on focusing on what betters yourself, and it's funny how they calls it here the philosopher. You know, it's it's harder for external forces to pull you in directions that are not aligned with, I call it, your beacon, or your whatever your goal is. You know, let me see. Let me go here. I have some key notes right here that I want to go over. Um, one thing I always tell people, like, if I asked you to close your eyes and just blank your head, like just meditate. I know that a lot of people can't do that for much, a lot, for very long. before little voice in their head is like, hey, the stove's on, or did you drop off that book, or X things will come in and freaking pull at your head when your eyes close. And I always tell people, like, if that's happened to you, that's a sign of uh, things are not clear up there. There's so many things that you're worried about and thinking about that it blinds you. And one of the things I tell them to do is like, okay, look, close your eyes, and out of all those things that are like asking for attention in your head, ask yourself, what is really under my control? What can I control? Oh, I'm worried because my son doesn't want to go to school, whatever. Can I really control it? No. You give suggestions, this and that, you can, but can you control the actions? No. Then leave it up to faith, leave it up to the universe, leave it up to faith that you gave them all the proper guidance. And if they don't take it, then we could have done a better job. But at this point, it's up to him. There's not much you can do. And I feel the fact that we feel we can change things in other people, in other situations, that's what pulls us in different directions. It avoids us from focusing on things that are actually going to help us grow, because we're too worried with the external world worries that we can't do anything about, but we're worried about it. See, so the society pressures us to be one way. Our instincts pull us another. Like, yeah, and that happens a lot, where we're being pulled in different directions. Like, society tells me I have to act some way, but my compass is telling me I have to do this. So let's put an example, like social media influencing people to chase status versus personal fulfillment, right? If you're doing social media to, you're chasing a status, you want to get somewhere, it's going to get harder because you're doing it for the wrong purposes. You're doing it you're chasing status, right? You're chasing something you can't control. But if you're doing it because it fulfills you, it's something that makes you feel good, makes you, you can do it for hours without caring if you're getting views or likes or whatever, then it's different. See, that's basically, it's fulfilling something internal, choosing internal stability over external chaos, over trying to be something for a bunch of people that at the end of the day just drives you nuts. So the philosopher, how it says it here in the book, is equals being self-aware, inner clarity, and wisdom. The mob is going with whatever trend, expectation, or influence is stronger right now, right? If we don't integrate our values internally, right, we risk losing ourselves externally. So now for our reflection. What forces in your life are pulling you in different directions? How can you align your actions with your true beliefs? See, and my challenge is, do one thing today based on your own values, not external expectations, nothing like that, just on what makes you feel like I call it flowing, like you're in the zone. Like, it just feels right. You know what I mean? All right. I've made this video super long, and I apologize. I'll get better. We'll do more lives when, I'll have to pick a better time, or maybe, I'll start trying to see when this works best. And I will really try to get in here and make a video a day for this, because I've committed myself and I really think it's important. And I'm sorry I skipped yesterday. But to summarize, self-awareness is key. Know your strengths and weaknesses and align yourself internally to avoid external chaos. Where are you overestimating, underestimating yourself? And where are you being pulled by outside forces instead of your own values? See, these two go together. I encourage you to reflect and apply these lessons in your daily lives, just even if it starts small. Just try to think this way. What's under my control? And what are my talents to be able to control what I control internally? And that's all I got for this one. I breathe like that because I'm reflecting on how, like, it's not only it's something that I kind of been preaching. I love that it's in the book. I love how it breaks it down. But I believe it's so important to really look internally and do that self-assessment. Where am I really where I think I am? Am I really where I think I am? Am I as good as I think I am? Could I be better? All that stuff. And then once you internalize and you realize what you're worth, you know, try to focus on only things that with your talents you can control. Don't do things for the mob. Do things for you, for the internal. All right? So hopefully this was a good episode. Once again, like, subscribe, leave a comment once I post this, and hopefully soon we'll have plenty of people on these lives, asking questions, interacting, and they'll get longer. But for now, this was the Daily Stoic. Sorry, it was for March 2nd and March 3rd. And see you tomorrow for March 4th. Talk to you guys later. Bye.